They accused me of poisoning my own grandchildren's minds. They said I was filling their heads with fear, lies, and hatred. That I was turning them against their own parents. And the person who made that accusation wasn't a stranger. It was my daughter. Before we begin, a huge thank you to all of you. We've officially hit 500 subscribers. It's a small milestone but a big deal for us. And now our eyes are set on the 1,000 subscribers goal. To help us get there, please hit the like button. Subscribe so you never miss a story. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and how you're doing. Your support truly encourages us and keeps this channel going now. Let's jump into the story. My name is Eleanor. I'm 70 years old, a retired nurse, and a grandmother to 2 wonderful children. I spent over 4 decades caring for people at their weakest. I held hands, calmed fears, and healed wounds. Never in my life did I imagine I'd be accused of harming children, especially my own blood. When my son Michael married Rachel, I welcomed her like a daughter. I respected boundaries. I helped when asked. I babysat, cooked meals, and stayed out of their arguments. At least, until Rachel decided I was a threat. It began subtly. Short visits, cold replies. Then one evening, Michael came to my house alone. His shoulders were slumped, his voice tight. "Mom," he said, "Rachel thinks it's best if you don't spend time alone with the kids anymore." I felt my heart drop. "She says you influence them in unhealthy ways," he added, "that you talk about things that upset them." I asked him what things. He couldn't answer. Rachel claimed I told the children their parents might split up, that I made them afraid of the future, that I whispered doubts into their minds. None of it was true. I asked Michael if he'd ever heard me say anything like that. He hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than the words themselves. A few days later, I received official papers. Rachel had filed a court motion requesting supervised visitation. The accusation was written clearly, coldly, like a diagnosis. Emotional poisoning of minors. Poisoning. After a lifetime of healing, I was barred from seeing my grandchildren alone. When I tried to hug them goodbye, Rachel stepped between us. She believed I would shrink, stay silent, accept shame. She didn't realize something important. I spent my life fighting for people who had no voice. And I wasn't about to lose mine now. Rachel thought court would silence me, but she had no idea what the judge would ask next. The courtroom felt colder than the winter air outside. Rachel sat beside her attorney, dressed neatly, her hands folded in her lap like she was the one on trial. My son Michael sat a few rows behind her, staring at the floor. I sat alone at the opposite table, my back straight, my heart pounding. Rachel spoke first. She cried softly as she described me as confusing and emotionally harmful. She claimed I planted doubts in the children's minds, that I spoke badly about their parents, that I caused anxiety they didn't have before. Her lawyer painted a careful picture: an elderly grandmother who meant well but crossed boundaries, who couldn't adapt to modern parenting. When it was my turn, I stood slowly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I spoke as a nurse would, calm, clear, and factual. I explained my routine with the children. Homework at the table. Reading before bed. Simple conversations about school and friends. I told the judge I had never once spoken badly about their parents. The judge listened closely. Then came the question that shifted the room. Have the children been interviewed independently? The judge asked. Rachel's lawyer hesitated. No, Your Honor, he admitted. The judge frowned. That will be arranged immediately. Rachel's confident posture tightened. The court ordered evaluations by a child psychologist, school counselors, and a guardian ad litem. Interviews would be conducted without parents present. Outside the courtroom, Rachel avoided my eyes. Michael finally approached me. I don't know what to think, he said quietly. Then listen, I replied. Days later, the evaluations began. The psychologist spoke to the children separately. Simple questions. Gentle tone. Does grandma scare you? Does grandma make you feel sad or worried? Both children shook their heads. Then my granddaughter added something that made the psychologist pause. Mom says we're not supposed to tell grandma things, she whispered. And we're not supposed to tell you what mom says. That comment was noted carefully. Next came the school reports. Teachers testified that the children showed no anxiety linked to time with me. In fact, they were calmer after my visits. The anxiety appeared only after court discussions at home. Rachel's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Then the court requested communication records, emails, messages related to the accusations. Rachel resisted. Her lawyer requested delays. The judge denied them. Michael looked increasingly unsettled as dates and phrases were read aloud. Words like toxic, dangerous, they'll turn against me if she stays. Rachel's voice was no longer steady. And neither was her story. What the court uncovered next didn't just disprove Rachel's claim, it revealed who was truly poisoning the children's minds. The courtroom went silent when the child psychologist took the stand. She didn't look at Rachel when she spoke. She addressed the judge calmly, professionally, as if she were explaining a medical diagnosis. Emotional poisoning, she began, is not caused by one conversation or one visit. It's a pattern. It happens when a caregiver repeatedly frames another family member as dangerous or untrustworthy. Rachel shifted in her seat. The psychologist continued. In this case, that behavior does not come from the grandmother. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. She explained how the children showed consistent affection and comfort when speaking about me. Their stress appeared only when discussing what their mother had told them. Then she revealed something that made Rachel's lawyer freeze. Before one session, the children had used exact phrases that didn't match their age. Phrases like emotional influence and unsafe boundaries. The psychologist asked where they heard those words. They answered honestly. Mom practiced them with us. Rachel jumped up. That's not true. The judge ordered her to sit. The psychologist presented notes from multiple sessions. The children described being corrected at home when their answers weren't right. They were told grandma was dangerous and that saying otherwise would make mom sad. Then came the evidence. Text messages. Rachel had sent Michael long paragraphs late at night, insisting I was turning the kids against her. She warned him that if I stayed involved, he would lose control of the family. One message stood out. If the court believes her, I'll lose everything. The judge read it twice. Michael stared at the screen in disbelief. I never saw these, he whispered. Rachel's lawyer objected again, claiming context. The judge overruled. Next, the guardian ad litem spoke. He confirmed the psychologist's findings. The children were not harmed by me. They were being pressured by their mother to fear me. Rachel's confident image collapsed. She stopped crying. Her hands shook. She avoided eye contact. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Harris, he said, you accused this woman of poisoning her grandchildren's minds. The evidence suggests the opposite. Rachel opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time, the courtroom saw her not as a protective mother but as someone desperate to control the narrative. Michael finally stood. Why didn't you just talk to my mom? He asked. Rachel said nothing. But just when it seemed the case was decided, one final revelation pushed everything past the point of no return. The judge didn't rule immediately. Instead, he ordered a short recess. That silence was heavier than any verdict. Rachel sat rigid in her chair, staring straight ahead. Michael had moved seats and now sat beside me, his hands clasped tightly, his face pale with realization. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't alone. When court resumed, the judge spoke carefully. Given the seriousness of these findings, he said, This court must determine whether the accusations were made in good faith or as a means of manipulation. Rachel's lawyer requested time to confer. The judge denied it. Then came the question that broke her remaining composure. "Mrs. Harris," the judge asked, "have you ever made similar accusations against another family member?" Rachel froze. Her lawyer stood. The judge shook his head. Overruled. Rachel's silence was answer enough. The guardian ad litem revealed what had been quietly investigated during the proceedings. In Rachel's previous marriage, there had been another custody dispute. Another grandmother. Another claim of emotional harm. The pattern was unmistakable. The prior case hadn't gone to trial, but the records existed. Michael's head snapped toward Rachel. "You told me your ex's family was abusive," he said. "You told me they were cruel." Rachel finally spoke, her voice sharp. "They were against me too." The judge raised his hand. "That will be enough." The court concluded that Rachel's accusations against me were unfounded and harmful. The motion for supervised visitation was dismissed immediately. But the ruling didn't stop there. Temporary custody arrangements were revised. Rachel was ordered to attend mandatory counseling. All communication regarding the children would be monitored until further review, and then came the sentence that made the room gasp. False allegations of emotional abuse, the judge said, are themselves a form of emotional abuse? Rachel's shoulders sagged. Michael closed his eyes. I felt no triumphantly, a deep, aching relief. Outside the courtroom, Rachel tried to explain herself. She claimed stress, fear, that she felt replaced. Michael listened quietly. Then he said, "You didn't protect the kids. You used them." He walked away. That night, the children stayed with me for the first time in months. We ate dinner together. No tension, no whispered warnings, just peace. Before bed, my granddaughter asked softly, "Grandma, are we in trouble?" I kissed her forehead. "No," I said, "you never were." But the final court decision weeks later would change our family forever and leave Rachel with no one left to blame. The final court hearing came 3 weeks later. This time, the room felt different. There was no tension in my chest, no fear in my hands. I walked in knowing the truth had already been seen. It was only waiting to be spoken aloud. Rachel sat alone. Her lawyer had advised her to stay quiet. Michael sat beside me, not as a confused son this time, but as someone who had finally opened his eyes. The judge reviewed the final reports slowly. Counseling evaluations, psychological assessments, follow-up interviews with the children. Every document pointed to the same conclusion. The judge cleared his throat. This court finds no evidence that the grandmother caused emotional or psychological harm to the children, he said. On the contrary, the evidence shows a stable, positive relationship. Rachel stared straight ahead, her face empty. However, the judge continued, there is clear evidence that false accusations were used as a tool of control. The ruling was firm. Full, unsupervised visitation rights were restored to me immediately. Rachel was ordered to continue mandatory counseling and parenting classes. Any further attempts to interfere with my relationship with the children would result in serious legal consequences. Michael squeezed my hand. Outside the courtroom, Rachel didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply walked past us, her power gone, her story finished. Later that evening, Michael came to my house alone. I should have protected you, he said quietly. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I told him the truth. When someone poisons a story long enough, I said, even good people can start believing it. That weekend, the children came over again. We planted flowers in the garden. We baked cookies. We laughed without fear of being watched or corrected. Before bedtime, my grandson asked a question that broke my heart. Grandma, he said, why did Mom say you were bad? I answered gently. Because sometimes people are afraid of losing control and they say hurtful things to keep it. He nodded, like he understood more than any child should. Rachel and Michael eventually separated, not because of the court, but because lies don't survive daylight. As for me, I didn't seek revenge. I sought peace. I got my family back. I got my name back. And I got the quiet satisfaction of knowing the truth spoke louder than any accusation. She tried to poison my grandchildren's minds, but in the end, the only lie that was exposed was her own. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so more people remember. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to stand up for yourself.